Assalamu alaikum everyone, it's your brother Ahmed Basal. I'm here with Brother Qasim Rafiq. How are you, Qasim?
Assalamu alaikum. Good, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. We're actually sitting in the MATW office in Sydney. We're very privileged to have Brother Qasim visiting us right now, and we're about to embark on your tour here in Australia.
Yes, that's right.
Tell us about that.
Love's Resilience. So basically, the 14th in Melbourne, 15th in Sydney, and the 23rd, inshallah, of this month in Brisbane. It's going to be a full-on, a very empowering seminar, so please do come along. Just jump on the website and all the details are there.
I've attended your seminars in the UK before, and I gotta say I was blown away. I think the line of people that were queuing up to thank you personally at the end was really incredible to see, subhanAllah. And even though I wasn't there for that, I learned so much that I was actually looking forward to the next one and the next one after that, alhamdulillah.
I think what it is that the approach that I come from is very different. I try to be as extremely transparent, raw and brutal when it comes to the reality of what's going on at the grassroots level, when it comes to our communities, when it comes to the courting procedure, why it is that we're getting it so wrong, especially in this day and age, and why is there now a pandemic of divorces happening. So at this seminar, obviously in this Australian tour, I'm going to be going through all of that, and then obviously moving on to discussing marriages and couples and how to preserve and protect the marriage so that we have longevity in our marriages, inshallah.
Honestly, it's something that's so needed right now, and may Allah reward you for all that you do. Now, people might not know that you've been a relationship coach for a long time, but I want to congratulate you that you've recently become an MATW project ambassador. So join the club.
Thank you so
Welcome.
much.
We wanted to find a guy with a Scottish accent, so
Yes.
alhamdulillah, we found you.
Alhamdulillah.
So you're going to be based in the United States, and you're going to be representing MATW project there. So I was actually curious when we were trying to decide what to talk on the live. What was your journey like, going from someone who some years ago never heard of MATW project to now you are the American ambassador for MATW project? What was that like, and how did it happen? And
it's been a long journey, but could I sort of like start from way back and
Yeah,
sort
sure.
of like work my way through?
I've got time.
So alhamdulillah. So what it is that many years ago, I've always sort of like been in the field of service. So I started off like in ocean rescue. A lot of people don't know this, but I was part of the ocean rescue team, and I worked in just off South Africa in Seychelles as an ocean rescue sort of like member of sort of like their local Coast Guard teams.
Wait a minute. So you're rescuing marine animals or people?
No, people. Actually, right. People. And so this was something that I did. Then I sort of transitioned into mountain rescue. So I was very sort of like into this sort of field of rescue work, which then eventually led me into becoming a police officer. And I worked as a police officer for about just under 10 years in Scotland. And so what happened was that at that stage, during my time in the police, I realised that obviously as an officer you're arresting people, but I ended up finding myself sort of like counselling people and sitting down with them. So I've arrested them, we're waiting at the charge bar, waiting to get them processed, but I'll be sitting there, and I found myself doing that a lot until one day the sergeant took me to the corner and basically gave me a slap in the wrist, and he's like, "What you doing?" He goes, you're not really meant to be counselling these folk. You're supposed to be getting them through the process and getting them charged. And so at that moment I realised that I can't see myself doing this until retirement. So what I did was I left, and then I started sort of like studying the human condition, studying sort of like relationships, and trying to understand what it is that's going wrong in my life at that time, because I had a lot of events happening in my life.
So I thought that was going to go a different way. I thought you were going to say the sergeant pulled me aside and said, "You should really be a counsellor." But he said, "No, you shouldn't be counselling anyone. Get back to work."
Just get back to work. So I kind of made that decision myself to sort of leave, but I ended up sort of like going through a lot of issues. I had a tragic loss of my mother when I was like over 20 years ago. She was sudden death. She was so young at that time. She was only 44. And so at that stage I started sort of like saying I need to sort of like realise who I am, understand my situation, and so that I can improve in becoming a husband, a father, and sort of like walk down that line. So I went into deep study at that stage, and then eventually I published my first book, 7 Life Lessons on the Myths of Marriage, and started sort of like looking more and more into relationship issues in the community. And then as that sort of like went on, I was actually, I'm divorcee, I was divorced, and hence why I went down this journey to find out what it is that I did so wrong, how can I fix myself. And eventually through that sort of like inner sort of like struggle, I actually went and climbed Mount Everest. A lot of people don't know that, but in 2008 I went on this sort of journey to sort of like find myself, as you would say. But so that's what I did. Obviously the loss of my mum, divorced.
So actually, this video is becoming like a very. It was supposed to be how did you learn about MATW, but it's actually become like a really impressive list of. I was ocean rescue, mountain rescue, police rescue, counselor.
This is all going to lead
climbed Mount Everest.
This is how it leads to MATW, but because at the end of the day, during this time in 2008 when I climbed Everest, I came obviously after that expedition and stuff.
2008 when I climbed Everest.
Yeah,
no big deal.
I realised then that there's a lot of people in the same boat as me, and so then I went down that line, obviously working on a book and stuff, and then eventually, alhamdulillah, I got remarried, and as you know, a lot of you already know my wife Yasmin Mujahid. She's an Islamic speaker, and alhamdulillah, she's an international sort of like figure, and so with her over the last almost 10 years I've been travelling. And as I've been travelling the world with her, going to all of these amazing mashallah communities all over the world, meeting the Muslims up and down, I realised that there's this dire need for help as well within the community, especially when it comes to relationships. But simultaneously, Yasmin was getting involved with, alhamdulillah, MATW, to the point where she, mashallah, went over to Togo. And alhamdulillah, she came back and she had such, I guess you can say, a life-changing moment going there. I mean, Yasmin gets a lot of requests to go all over the world when it comes to different charities and stuff, but this is one of the ones, and Allah knows best with His infinite wisdom, but she chose this one, and so she went. And after speaking to Yasmin about it, sitting down, and obviously throughout the last 2-3 years before that, we were travelling with the MATW team in different tours in Europe, UK, etc. I just found the brotherhood, the sisterhood, I just found the energy of the MATW family so empowering and refreshing, to be honest, that when she came back from Togo, me and my wife, we sat down, we had like a heart-to-heart discussion about it. And I just felt this sort of like attachment from there on. And obviously hearing Ali Banat, Allah Yarhamu's story, and so like going through that story, I realised that, you know something, I need to be part of this. And this is me thinking in my head and in my heart, I would love to be part of this.
So even before there was
even before this conversation, I had this feeling in my heart. And then, alhamdulillah, Ahmed, you can explain what happened. From one thing led to the other, and then alhamdulillah I got approached by MATW and asked to sort of like take part, and it was just such a, it was, to be honest, it was a, I'm going to be very vulnerable here, it was actually a dua that was answered. A lot of people don't know that, but I actually did ask Allah with utter sincerity, because I've had the privilege of going to Umrah sort of like for the last few years, every year. And it's one of the du'as that I made actually in front of the Haram in Kaaba, to ask the Ya Rahman, allow me to be involved with a charity that you know that I can sort of like just be open with and just pour my heart into it, and that you'll be pleased with my efforts in this charity. And then I'm here.
That's incredible, man.
And so that's kind of like the summarized version of how. And I've always been geared towards service, towards people, as you can tell over the decades.
Yeah, it's obvious now. Yeah.
It's I've always been at service. I never knew what my direction was, but alhamdulillah now, as the years, especially the last 10 years, I've realised that it's in helping through sort of like re-establishing people when it comes to the relationship issues. And now, alhamdulillah, Allah's taken me down this line of being at the service and trying to help people all over the world when it comes to orphans, widows, and building.
Well, alhamdulillah, like we can definitely see a pattern of wanting to help people.
Yes.
Even if the sergeant didn't like it, alhamdulillah. And you know, now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you the chance to help people in their dunya, in their marriage, which also has an impact on their akhirah as well, but now also to help the millions of people that MATW project reaches every year in the 30 countries that we work in. So that's a really incredible story, subhanAllah. And I can sort of relate to the Togo experience because when I had just joined MATW project, it was only sort of less than 3 months. Brother Mahmoud, our CEO, he said, I want you to go to Togo and spend some time in Togo. It was very early in I didn't expect to join MATW and then immediately be sent. I thought it would happen after a year or something. But it was within the first 2 or 3 months, and it changes you. And for the last 5 years, I've been speaking to our team members and volunteers and people like yourself and saying it really changes you. It does something to you when you go.
It does.
SubhanAllah. Have you been to Togo yourself or not yet?
I haven't been to Togo, but inshallah, hopefully soon.
Inshallah.
In the upcoming weeks, that's all I can say.
It's on the to-do. Upcoming weeks. Okay,
yeah,
that's a good hint. Inshallah. Well, brother, it's been amazing to sit down with you and hear your story.
Thank you so
I'm gonna now pester you with a lot of like mountain rescue tips, mountain climbing tips, Everest tips, all this sort of stuff. But no, in all seriousness, a beautiful, beautiful story.
Thank you so much.
Actually, a couple of days ago with Sister Yasmin, we were in Melbourne. I was there. We had an event. And a sister, Australian sister, said her shahada and became Muslim. But the story behind that reminds me of what you just said about making dua in the haram. So this lady, Australian lady, was looking into Islam for 20 years, but had not accepted yet. But she learned to pray. She was praying. She was fasting, but she hadn't accepted Islam. And she said maybe one day. And one of her friends had gone to Umrah just 3 weeks ago, and that friend made dua in front of the Kaaba. Ya Allah, please make my friend become a Muslim.
Wow.
So she made that dua in the haram, and then they both came to attend your wife's event 2 days ago, and she said her shahada that night, and the friend was crying, I think, more than the revert, because she said, I can't believe I made the dua, and Allah allowed me to witness it. Not only let it happen, but let it happen right in front of me, so I could see it, subhanAllah. So it's just incredible.
Yeah, it's a miracle. People say that miracles don't exist, but the reality is if you open your eyes, miracles are everywhere.
Yeah, well, it happens every day. Now with Ramadan so close, I would be remiss not to ask you for your Ramadan. Maybe if you could give us just 1 or 2 pieces of Ramadan advice, whether it's something we should do or think about now, or in the holy month, whatever you think. If you could get some good deeds related to Ramadan, what would you say?
I think the most important tip that I can give from Ramadan is what my Sheikh, Sheikh Muhammad al-Sharif Allah Yarhamu, who passed away just recently, may Allah grant him a high rank, he taught us a very valuable lesson that he learned when he was younger, which was that you gather yourself a handful of du'as that you really want, and these du'as, you call them milestones in your life. So it can be whatever I'm not talking about du'as that are just superficial, really deep du'as that if they get answered, there will be a major shift in your life. So you sort of like select between 5 and 8 of these du'as, and you make these du'as every single day during Ramadan at the times when obviously du'as are accepted. So if you come from where I'm from in Scotland, when it's raining, you're outside, do you understand? But again, at the time of opening the fast, in sujood, all these times and this is the nuance of it, you stick to that exact dua. So the exact 6 or 8 duas, you do not falter from them. Just say them again and again, and then during the last 10 nights, again, just stick to them 6, and you will see the barakah, and we'll talk about miracles, the blessings of how these du'as get answered. If I can tell you my own personal sort of which I'm not going to get into, but there's been life-changing, and this is a habit that I haven't changed for well over a decade now. Every Ramadan, I have my what I call power du'as, or what Sheikh Muhammad al-Sharif Allah Yarhamu mentioned was visionaire du'as. So have them, and don't just write them down. Like actually a week or 2 weeks before Ramadan starts, think about them, ponder over them. What the Sheikh taught us was that you'll make a list of maybe 15-20 du'as, start filtering them, and then going back to it, filtering it, and then just re-scripting it, redoing it, and do it until you get these nuggets, these diamonds that you've got from your heart, the depth of your heart, and just repeat them again and again. And I'm telling you, whatever masibah, whatever problem, whatever issues, whether it's rizq, health, provision, looking for a spouse, children, looking for your children to sort of like get back together. Do you know a lot of mums and dads have got a lot of issues, especially nowadays with their kids? all these issues sort of like can be resolved through your power du'as. Just do that throughout the entire month, and you'll see what happens during the year. It's magical. And I shouldn't even say magical, it's a blessing.
SubhanAllah. Well, this is the magic of Allah answering your du'as. Not the black magic.
Not the black.
Alhamdulillah. Brother, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And of course, with Ramadan so close, it always helps to have your du'as answered if you are helping other people as well. So don't forget to make du'a for our brothers and sisters in Palestine and anywhere in the world where people are suffering. Don't forget, you can click the link in the bio or go to matwproject.org and you'll be able to support any of our projects and programs in over 30 countries, which reaches millions of people every year. Inshallah, until next time, you'll see Brother Qasim at his events in the coming weeks. I'll be there as well, inshallah. And we hope to see you in your city on tour sometime soon. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum.